Hello, my friends. Welcome once again to Spiritism, a closer look. We are here every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. You are on Kardec Radio. I'm Luiz Lima, your host, not ghost. Oh, please, your host for tonight. So, for questions and comments, you can always go to kardecradio.com. Let me give you here the links where you can connect to us, kardecradio.com, our Spiritism A Closer Look Facebook page, and also through the email that you have on your screens. So, any comments, suggestions, topics you want to hear us bringing over for discussion, we're open to all of that, and we appreciate your participation. So, tonight we are going to take a closer look at pride and selfishness. This is something that has been around in Spiritism for a very long time. We hear a lot about this. Sometimes we even get tired of it. So we wanted to really take a closer look on how this thing starts. That's the closer look. That's the angle that we are gonna attack this today. It's gonna be a reflection for all of us to think about it a little bit. So hopefully uh, you're gonna like this. So you and I are gonna spend some time doing this reflection. Oh yeah, you and I. You're here, so now you're part of it. Okay, let me start by saying Spiritism gives us a very clear view of this topic. Very clear. Because we have a vast literature overall in Spiritism, not only the codification, but all the support literature that came after Allan Kardec. Sometimes it's hard to find the information. It's just too much. It's just too many things at the same time. But in the codification itself, Allan Kardec, of course, guided by the spirits, he gives us a clear vision of the situation, a clear view of the problem. And that's what I want to bring in today. That's why I call this a closer look. We want to take a closer look, really a closer look, put a magnifier on top of pride and selfishness and discuss about it. In the Spirit's book itself, Allan Kardec has a question where it's a straight question and a straight answer. Right here, you have on the bottom of your screen. Question 785 in the Spirit's book. What is the greatest obstacle to progress? Straight answer, pride and selfishness. And then he will later on, because Allan Kardec, he needs, for himself, I think, he needs to make sure that there's no conflict in the answers he's getting. So he kind of double, asks here and there. He cross-checks answers. So he will ask again, of all the vices, which one should we regard as the root? Answer, selfishness. So the spirits don't say anything like, oh, you got to think about this. You got to, no. It's a straight answer, question answer. And that's interesting because this answer here to question 913, when they answer the question, not only they give us the answer, but they say, we already have talked about this many times. So you see, that shows how Allan Kardec is trying to really make sure that this is the right answer, that there's a common ground for all the vices that we carry on, and that is selfishness. And the spirits also go on to say that all evil derives from it. Okay, so going back, we hear this a lot of times in lectures, studies, on spiritist centers. We already know that. But what's behind all those things? How did it all begin? How come we have such let's put it in mathematical terms. How come do I have such an amount of pride? Same for selfishness. How did it get so big? It looks like a snowball effect took place. And of course, a snowball starts from one little grain of something that it rolls on and on and on. It becomes this untamable thing. So why do we carry this so close and tight to us? That's so important, apparently. That goes for all of us, myself included. We are all here undergoing trials and expiations. We are all here to learn and make the best of our learning to keep going. The answer to how did this begin is in the codification. Allan Kardec talks about the kingdoms. So for every kingdom that comes along, it is more advanced than the previous one. So we start from the mineral kingdom, and for each kingdom, it receives a basic, or let's put it, a fundamental attribute. So for the mineral kingdom, that attribute is attraction. Those are atoms and molecules attracting themselves to form the minerals that we know today. So attraction is a driving force. And then the next kingdom, the plants kingdom, receives, so attraction is already there. It's, of course, plants are formed of atoms and molecules and all of that. So the plants kingdom receives an extra attribute, which is sensation. So it's life. Okay? The plants kingdom has already living organisms in the form of sensation. That's the attribute. Then it goes to the animal kingdom, and the attribute is instinct. You see, all these attributes received as you go along, studying the kingdoms, they do not override the previous ones. They just add. So in the animal kingdom, attraction is there. There are molecules and physical bodies and everything. Sensation is there, and instinct comes along. So it's cumulative. Now, in the animal kingdom, the attribute is instinct. And the main instinct is instinct of preservation. If you look at, animals in an African field, and we see so many times on television and internet, when the lions go after the gazelles, the gazelles, they just run. They're not going to be stuck and waiting for the lions. They just run. That's instinct of preservation. That's the main instinct. When we go to the next kingdom, which is us, humans, all of those same things are passed on, including instinct of preservation. But we have a new attribute, which is reasoning. So now we have instinct and sensation and attraction, but we have reasoning. And that becomes very interesting because with that, in order to protect ourselves, instinct of preservation, with reasoning, the animals don't have reasoning. In order for us to protect the instinct of preservation, with reasoning, we receive two new attributes, and they are called pride and selfishness. Yeah. It's not the pride that we started talking in the beginning, that the snowball, that's not it. And it's the selfishness is not what we discuss every day in our society. It's different. It's at its very, very, very most possible elementary level. Let me give you an example. Just think of the situation to illustrate what was meant by the spirits when they said this. Imagine you are in a, let's say, a room, relatively large room. You and a lot of people, say 50 people in a room, in a party, let's say. Then suddenly, through the door, comes a lion. Yeah, just imagine. I know you can imagine. I can too. So imagine a lion comes through. What are you going to do? You're not going to go, oh, what a little nice cat. This is a big cat. Let me go to this cat. You don't do this. You run away to as far as you can from the door that he's coming from or through. In the initial seconds, we're talking about 2 seconds, maybe 3 seconds. In those seconds, your instinct is preservation. During those 3 seconds, let's make it 3 seconds so we have a number to think. During those 3 seconds, you don't care for who is around you, not even if it's a family member, a son, a daughter. We can't, because this requires reasoning to think, oh my God, my son is here, my daughter is here, I need to do something, I need to save them because the lion is coming. That's after. Reasoning comes on top of instinct. Instinct comes first. So there is a period of time, minimum, but there is a period of time where I am totally selfish. But not selfish in 2022 with our society the way it is. It's that very basic level because I need it to protect myself. In this case that I'm talking about, getting away from the lion. And the number two thing that comes along with that is pride, in which I'm going to look at the situation, I'm going to say, come on, I am better than this lion. I'm going to be able to get out of here. I'm going to put a strategy. I'm going to run, to the left, to the right, whatever. And I'm going to get away from this situation because I am better than the lion. Better at the very, very, very minimum basic level. This is pride and selfishness on layer 1. We are in layer thousands above it right now in our society. Layer 1 is instinct of preservation and nothing else. That's the origin of pride. That's the origin of selfishness. And by the way, all instincts, all of them, instinct of preservation is one of them. All instincts have their reason to be. They are useful. God would not give us anything that we don't need or it's completely useful or useless. I'm sorry. He wouldn't give us anything that is useless. He wouldn't do that. What happens is our wrongdoings, our wrong turns along the way, make it develop in a snowball. When you get to 2022, coming from simple and ignorant, we see a society close to moral bankruptcy. We are at a point close to moral bankruptcy. So the spirits will tell us selfishness derives from pride. And they explain why. Pride is how much importance I give it to myself. And if I give to myself too much importance, naturally I'm selfish. So it's a natural thing. It's not that, to come from one to another, you have to do something. No, it's a natural thing. One comes with the other. When I go along rolling the snowball, our inflated ego goes above and beyond the instinct of preservation and creates this necessity, this need for a mega protection because I need to protect myself. But you see, the protection that we are talking about today is not at the basic level, is not on layer 1, which is just nothing more than instinct of preservation. What are we protecting ourselves from exactly today that requires us to get to this point? Let me say this: pride and selfishness in current modern life became a treasure for most of us. Became a treasure. It's an important thing. I'm untouchable. I'm better than you. I'm above you. So it becomes a treasure. And Jesus said, your heart is where the treasure is. What is a treasure? Is that what I most value? I put my value on it. So I put my heart on it. So, and I'm going to defend my treasure, the way that I can. I'm going to use all my possible tools and whatever else that I need to protect myself, to protect my treasure. So to protect the treasure, we use two things: tools and weapons. What are the tools that we use? We use something that we can call a firewall. We raise a firewall to keep the enemy away. We use a firewall to keep the enemy away. And who is the enemy? The enemy is the world approaching my treasure. The world does not exclude anybody. Potentially, everybody's an enemy. So somebody that we think it's a friend tomorrow could be seen as an enemy. Not because they did something, because of me. It's me. It's a type of judgment. So I need to protect myself, and I use these tools. Main tool is this firewall. I put this wall up all around 360, and within the boundaries of the wall, I'm protected. But I also use weapons. What are these weapons? Some of them: hatred, aggressiveness, intolerance, arrogance, revenge, envy, and maybe the biggest one of all, bullying, because bullying is something that you do not as a reaction because you want to create evil. It's not a reaction to anything. So it's the worst of all. You're not protecting yourself or your treasure by bullying. It's just inner conflict, nothing else. But anyway, so we have this castle or this fortress that we build around. And what happens to what's inside? It spreads its roots. So all these things, hatred and all of aggressiveness, revenge, bullying, everything that I said and much more, they spread out to the point that the spirits will say the great majority of life miseries, they derive from selfishness and pride. Because of that, the roots are spreading. And that makes sense with the answer from the spirits, that there's a root to all of this thing. And that root is selfishness, and it spreads. You see, due to our needs to fulfill our satisfaction of our own personal desires, we do this both morally and materially. Morally means I am right. I'm always right. I got the truth here. Whatever I say, that's the truth. That's how morally I fulfill my satisfaction. You got to follow me, you got to obey me, and so and so. But also materially, in what I said, I would act or say things like, I want this thing for me no matter what. No matter what the cost is going to be. I want this, whatever, this car, this house, this object. So I want material possessions, whatever the cost is, whatever it takes. You see, that's the snowball. That's the snowball. So all these conflicts, they expand outside the reasonable. They spread their roots outside the firewall, beyond the reasonable. So today we see things that, or we live through things such as cancel culture. That's all because we do not understand the instinct of preservation at its basic level. I do not have, or I do not need to attack and be aggressive with a person before the person even talks to me or comes to me. Most of the times, these things are not reactions, they are actions. So we're doing it all wrong. We were all created simple and ignorant. without snowball. The problem is, with time, along the way, we started to drift away from the divine law. And by doing that, we make ourselves selfish and proud by exaggerating, completely exaggerating the instinct of preservation granted by God. So we went into our own personal adventure, and the results are not being it's not being fun. It brings a lot of suffering, a lot of inner conflict, because there's no ball is inside, it's internal. There's no ball is internal. So the exaggeration is what makes us evil and pernicious. That's what the spirits tells us. So how do we turn things around? How do we get away from this? One thing to understand is the firewall, the fortress, the firewall, can never be broken from outside because it's a firewall. That's the purpose of a firewall, or a fortress, if you like the word better, or a castle. So you build up this thing, you raise it up, so nobody at all can come through or destroy it. So it can never be broken from outside. For this thing to be brought down, so we can have a better life, it has to be brought down from the inside. And who is inside? Just me and mine, just you and yours. There are no two people inside our personal firewall, if you will. So breaking it has to come from us. We have to have the desire to do this. But to have the desires is better if we understand. That's why I brought the subject. If we understand what we are doing. So here's a basic question. Does the castle, does the fortress makes me happy, or does it make me miserable? It makes us all miserable. It can't make us happy. It won't make us happy. You will make us miserable, and I'll say even more than that. Moreover, worse, it makes us vulnerable, because in order to protect the treasure, we trade love for hatred, because hatred supposedly, in quotes, protects us. Hatred is a soldier protecting my firewall. We trade charity for power, and on and on and on. We trade virtues for vices. And suffering comes along. Suffering is the result of that. And then we have to do with all the suffering. So think about this. I think that's the point of the reflection that we are doing here today. Why are we not in peace behind the firewall, inside the castle? Why are we not in peace? Because we are not. Nobody is, almost nobody. Very few people are in true peace. Not 5 minutes of peace here, 2 days of peace. No. Peace, 100% flat, all across. Why are we not in peace? Because we live as if we had to conquer peace. And if I had to conquer something, I need to go to war to conquer that something. That there's fight. I need to fight for what I need to conquer. So I need to fight for peace, which is absurd if you think about it. On the contrary, peace is not something that we conquer. Peace is already out there. It's part of the universe. Peace conquers us. For peace to conquer us, it has to break through the firewall. But I put a firewall that does not allow for that. So peace can meet me inside the castle. Here I am. Here you are, isolated inside a castle, and peace is out there trying to get to us. And we don't let it. We want to conquer it. You see, that's the reflection on the subject that Spiritism brings to us. It makes us think. Yeah, it makes us think. It's challenging. It's a different perspective on things. I'm not in peace because I'm not letting peace come by. If peace is outside the firewall, it's just another enemy, just like anybody else or anything else that I'm protecting myself from. So this is not self-protection. This is self-destruction. The firewall, the fortress, the castle, they are elements of self-destruction. They are not elements of self-protection. And even more, they have a tremendous domino effect upon society. Because my attitudes, when I am aggressive towards somebody, that somebody's gonna, oh yeah, they're gonna raise their firewall even more because they're being attacked if they face it that way. And we do the same. So it has a tremendous, tremendous domino effect on each one of us, thus the entire society. And it causes a brutal society about to be morally bankrupt. And it all started with a grain of selfishness and a grain of pride that we didn't figure out to use in the first place. But now we do know. It's a matter of willing to or not. When we don't know, simply in ignorance, we learn through trials and through trial and error. That's what we've been doing until the day that somebody explains to you and says, this is what it is. So I don't need to continue on trial and errors. It's a choice. It's a personal choice. It is my choice. It is your choice. Thank you very much for being here with us tonight. Once again, if you want to make your comments, questions, suggestions, topics for us to discuss, you have the information down on your screen here. We will be here once again next Wednesday, next week, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you so much. Be well, and I see you then. Thank you.